Hey guys, welcome to the Multicast podcast with Blitz Purge and Hotbid, and today we have a special guest. It's also going to be Capitalist. Welcome, guys.
I'm so special.
Is your guys' schedules
Hello.
completely messed up still?
No, mine's perfect.
Yeah,
Literally
mine's actually
could
pretty
not get
good.
better.
What's perfect for you, Will? Waking up 4 p.m.?
Sounds
No,
about
like
right.
I'm sleeping at. Yesterday I slept at 11 and I woke up at 8 a.m.
That's a real ass schedule. I'm proud of you, man. Hotbid, how you doing?
Thanks.
I'm good. I'm real excited for this. I've been watching from the sidelines at home, and I want to know what's been going on.
Yeah, so we're going to have a bit of a weird episode here because we're obviously going to talk almost entirely about Shanghai, and both Hotbid and I were not there, whereas Blitz and Cap were there. So hopefully we're going to do get all the good deets, most of the good deets. I don't want to know about creepy stuff like who had sex with who or anything like that, but hopefully you guys can like make fun of KeyTV the whole time, right?
Pretty
I-
much.
Damn it! Now I gotta put my whole list of who had sex with who away.
I just
Come
want
on,
to say
Kevin.
that I screwed up my sleep schedule too, watching the Shanghai Major, because I would like try and watch the games, and they run until like 4 a.m. my time, and I tried to stay up and watch them, but oftentimes they'd run until 8 a.m. So then I would have to go to work.
I think I had it best. I just would watch them at like 5 p.m. because I was in California, and then I would go to sleep whenever, and then I just watch the VODs the next day, and I would save like approximately 14 hours per broadcast day just watching the replays instead of waiting for the game to start. So that was pretty good. All right, so first things first. You guys get in the airplane, you fly to the event. Cap, I remember.
No. We gotta start look. You gotta start right at the beginning. So, when you guys were invited to Shanghai, what did you expect? Because we all saw that episode where Swindle is like, "It can't be worse than Mars, right?" I think that's what she said. And then Charlie was like, "No, it definitely can be. I know my people." So, what did you guys think it was gonna be like before you got there?
I mean, I heard that it was going to be produced. Oh, I didn't know it was going to be produced by KeyTV until I landed. Like, I thought we were going to work with Perfect World and they would hire some, outside production, and it would. I knew it was going to be some errors and stuff. It almost always is with contracted work, but like I didn't think it was going to go that bad.
This was my first time to mainland China, and the first time I've been obviously to a Chinese event or anywhere east, and I just like known that all of the events had some serious problems, so I was expecting something bad to go wrong. I just didn't expect so many things to go wrong.
Okay. Okay. Well, so you guys then got on the plane, right? And you
Well-
landed, and describe what happened.
No, what about the flight? Cap tweeted so much while he's on the airplane. Come on,
Oh, okay. Yeah. What
Did-
was the
did
flight
I?
like?
didn't you?
Oh.
Weren't you and Charlie really bored? I mean, it was like,
Oh,
it was like
yeah,
a month
yeah.
ago, but
It's like a
it
lifetime
was a long
ago
time
at this
ago.
point. It's
Yeah,
like, a
I
month
don't
ago's
usually.
like forever.
Yeah, I don't usually sleep on planes anymore for whatever reason. That's just zoned away. So, just so happened that Charlie and I were both on our flights with Wi-Fi, and we started playing a game of I Spy. It actually worked out pretty well.
I followed all
Like-
that. It seemed pretty interesting. What was the one that was? It was like an iPod headset or something.
Oh yeah.
That
It
one
was
was-
like something that was white, and I can't remember what my first guess is, but he gave me a hint, and it was like think what I'm looking at, and of course when I'm reading it, I'm looking at my phone, right? So I
Oh,
was
okay.
like, oh, like the Twitter background or something. And he was like, no, that's close, and I was like, the white cable that plugs into your phone.
Yeah, I thought that
That
was
was
good.
it.
You got it quite early. Nice job.
Thank you. We are I Spy experts now.
Blitz, what did you do on the flight?
My flight was different because I flew with Liquid from their bootcamp in the Netherlands.
How
So
long
I
were you
pretty
there
much-
at their boot camp?
I was there for the full duration.
Wait, hold
which
on.
was
Which
7 days?
Where were you in Utrecht?
Yeah, I was in.
Did you
Utrecht.
stay in my room?
No, we were
'Cause I
in
lived-
the.
I lived there for like a year.
We were in a new place or whatever, but we
It
were
was
like right next door.
though. It was right next
Yeah.
door, right? Did you guys go to the supermarket and get farmer's cabbage?
No, but we did go to the supermarket quite often.
I know which supermarket you're talking about. And there's like a river when you walk out of the house.
Yeah, there were like swans
Oh
or
my
geese
God.
or whatever.
Yeah. And
But-
did you get the little waffle cookies?
Yeah, I did. I brought some for Charlie too.
Okay.
But so I flew with those guys, and it was a pretty uneventful flight. Most of it we just kind of fiended and talked about Dota things. And then, yeah, it was a
Did they
pretty
pick you up at the
easygoing
airport?
thing. Yeah. So there was like a bunch of people that were like flashing cameras. Oh, probably the funniest thing is they told us to go up a flight of stairs. So we went up a flight of stairs, and then we took an elevator back down. And then we just took the same flight of stairs back up, and then we like took a left. It was weird. They made us go in like a loop like 3 or 4 times
Oh, to
before they
take
figured
photos?
it out. No, like because they had no idea where they were going.
Is that what was the first moment where you're like, things, some of these people seem like it might be, you know, a little disorganized or whatever?
When they made us go up a flight of stairs, go into an elevator to go back to where we were, and they made us do that 3 or 4 times because they had no idea where they were going.
Did they like apologize or anything? Because I know if that was like
No.
yeah, they would just
It
be
just
like, "Oh, I'm
kinda
sorry, I
happened.
forgot where I am."
Are you sure they didn't apologize in Chinese and you just didn't understand it?
No. Our contact was English.
Okay.
It was a pretty funny situation.
Cap?
I'm pretty sure I just got a ride to the hotel and I spent like 2 days in the hotel. That was fine. I think I got there like Blitz was already passed out.
How was
But
the hotel?
the hotel was great. I mean, the breakfast was really good.
Better or worse than a Romanian breakfast?
Worse.
Dude, the Romanian
Was
breakfast
it
was
worse?
legit, dude.
Yeah, it was 100% worse.
All right.
Romanian
It
breakfast
was,
really
maybe
good.
it was worse, but it was still really good.
Okay.
They
My
made
biggest
waffles.
issue with that room was that it was in a smoking section.
Oh,
for
there
some
is no
reason.
non-smoking section, dude.
There is, apparently. Like past floor like 15 or something, apparently everything up was a non-smoking. But we were in like a smoking hall, so I would try to sleep and then I would like smell cigarettes and that would just kill it. Maybe I'm just like a baby or whatever, but I'm
No, that's
very
legit.
unused
That's
to
a
this
legit
like
complaint. A lot of people smoke,
Yeah.
so
Oh, that sucks. Was there any midnight snack or anything like that?
No.
no. Oftentimes they didn't have food for us at the end, so we would just have to order room service.
And how was the room service?
One time I ordered a burger and fries, and they gave me a burger and half a cooked potato. Like I can't even make this shit up.
Maybe that's fries. I don't know. Like
No,
No,
because
because then they gave
Yeah.
fries
subsequent
later
times
on.
they made me fries. It was just
Wow.
that one time.
one time they were just like fuck it and they gave you the potato.
Did they speak
It was
English
just like
properly
whole
when
one.
you answered, or
Yeah, well, I didn't know because it was covered. So then
It was what?
I'm like it was like covered.
Well, the words for potatoes and fries is very similar in Chinese.
So then I saw the potato and then I was like really fucking confused and maybe I thought it was like a delicacy or something or like
A
once I
potato?
the
like,
potato
no, but, like,
delicacy?
what? Shut up! I meant like if I bit into it, it would.
The
be
fries
something
would pop
different.
out or something.
But it was no, it was
Yeah,
just like
like
a
filled with
mouthful of
fries.
like half raw potato.
Okay.
That's
Maybe they're
impressive.
just trying to send you a message that you were eating unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
By
so
giving me a potato.
so leading into the event, how was like the talent prep? Like, did you guys know what your schedules were going to be like? Did they give you a heads up going in?
What talent prep?
Okay, did they say like these are the days we start? This is when we need to be
Wait,
here?
did you guys have a rehearsal?
No, we never had a rehearsal. So we got the message that we were supposed to have a rehearsal, and they were scheduling like, okay, this is what time you guys need to be here, and then they switched it up, and we're like, okay, only the people who are going to be opening the show need to be here at this time, and then next thing you know, it was like, oh, we can't actually do a rehearsal, but if you guys want to come and see the area, you can do that.
What was the air like?
I actually didn't notice it that much, but I know multiple people had issues with I mean, I went in, I went and my tonsils were already inflamed, so I couldn't actually tell if that was like the smog causing the issues or what. But I know other people had a lot of issues with it.
So is it just safe to say you guys didn't go outside that much? And did you use like masks to go between the event and stuff? I don't know how widespread it was, but
They use
No.
masks
Mask.
in the booths.
yeah, I knew about that. I was watching replays and I was like, why does
Do you
Eternal
guys get to
Envy
be in the
keep
booth?
pausing and typing eyes? I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I checked out the booth the morning of, or maybe the night before, or something, and yeah, it was pretty bad. I remember smelling the glue, and it was not great.
Okay, so no rehearsal. So did that make everyone kind of uneasy about like how it's gonna go the first day?
Yeah, but I think everyone expected it to like not go well in the beginning. I mean, like
Yeah,
let's
but
remember,
there's
let's remember that.
expectations.
No. Let's remember that TI4 group stage was entirely done in Valve offices with like Best Buy headsets. So it's not like this is.
Yeah, but we've come a
there
long
was no
way
other.
from TI4.
Yeah, but it's not like there was no other precedent where things were terrible in the beginning of a group stage. It was in the hotel anyway, so.
The group stage was okay.
Yeah. So, I think everyone kind of expected it to be a little bit off in the beginning, but then we went in the morning and nothing was working.
Guys, I can hear these blinks on the recording. I don't know how to turn
sorry,
that sound
fam.
effect off, but
Sorry, fam.
I was like, what the fuck is happening? Okay, so what was I gonna say? So the group stage basically starts, right? You guys don't have any prep. It's at least in the studio, but you
Yeah, the
instantly
first
start
day, I
casting.
remember
What was day one like?
The first day was like a delay, right? Like right at the beginning, the ceremony and stuff.
Or, I mean, we haven't gone through the whole entire group stage yet. The group stage was.
Oh no! I mean like the like very very opening.
Like the very start of the tournament, like the first day you guys were about to be on camera.
Was there supposed to be a ceremony? I don't know.
Yeah, there was.
Oh.
I mean, I didn't get to see it. It was slideshowy, but I heard there was one.
What ended up happening was they told the Chinese team that they didn't have to show up. Then nobody told any of the like Western teams. So then the Western teams were like, okay, I guess we'll show up. And then none of the Chinese teams went. So then the Western teams were like, okay, guess not.
Cool.
So when it first started in the group stage, like the opening with James, right? That it started a little late, but then he opened with some very strong jokes, some bit controversial. Were you guys already just like, like right from the start, or what?
I mean, I worked that opening panel. I don't know if you were there, Cap. Were you?
No.
Okay, so I worked the opening panel. Then as soon as James started, me and like gods look at each other like, and we're just like, what? Like, I couldn't even believe that he had gone there like that quickly. It was like from the get go.
Right at the start. The see you next
Yeah.
Tuesday, right at the start.
It was pretty insane. Like
I think he opened with the C word and the stuff about porn, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
That's how it started.
The comments that I gather, I haven't actually watched the VOD, but it was something like he was talking about how difficult it was to view porn in China for masturbation purposes. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He was also talking about getting around it as well, which is apparently kind of
so
a
getting
no-no,
past the
but-
firewall, aka canceling out. Yeah.
But that was definitely a very strong James start. I think he said that he needed to establish himself with his fans, that his humor was still there, whatever. But that was definitely a bit too strong there, James.
All right, so that was the absolute start. At what point did you guys realize that there were tons of tech issues? Because I know sometimes when you're working an event, if you're not doing any of the tech aspects, you just keep going, and then later on you realize the stream is dead, the stream dies occasionally, audio's awful. Like, when did you guys know?
We had a WhatsApp group, so I knew immediately because I was reading all the messages about from like K-pop and stuff, how like there were production issues, and then there was also I was getting messages from the opening casters as well, and they were talking about like how the casting setups were terrible and there weren't even mics or something like that. At some point in time during the group stage, the mics got taken away, and one of the casting setups just wasn't like there was nothing they could do for like 20 minutes.
So I have a question about the communication between the control room and the host and like the desk and stuff. Is it true that they actually had the director have to go through a translator to then talk to James?
Yes, Bonnie was the translator, and
So
from what I gather, essentially the beginning of this was like their production was really terrible. The way they directed it, they kept going through replays over and over. Like we would literally be like casting a game, and I would watch it go from like a little bit of action, a fight happens, and then they do the replay immediately after, and then we'd have, by the time the replay's over, then we'd do another fight, and then they would do another replay, and the replays just didn't make much sense. Like they were kind of useless. And apparently that was the director's call. But later on, like Bonnie, the translator, Valve basically said, you need to listen more to Bonnie, and Bonnie essentially just became the director over time, obviously after KeyTV got fired, even before then.
I just want to say that, like, directing a show is very difficult. It is something that you have to be very specialized in. We have a few guys that direct shows at ESL, and they're very good at it, and they have a lot of experience. It's very hard to do it if you have no experience. So the fact that it even was remotely able to happen with Bonnie is kind of amazing.
Yeah, Bonnie actually did a fantastic job. Like, she just took on the reins of the show and actually did.
That's actually crazy because you have to like direct camera shots, you have to pull up lower thirds, you have to like tell people like when they're queuing, like what to say, like all that kind of stuff. And then obviously she's having to work with Too Good, who probably was not in the best mood, or no one was probably in the best mood in terms of like the whole time, right? I imagine everyone was kind of like pissed off.
I don't know how James was, but I know like there were a couple times where I was like, yo, like this needs to happen, and I would always tell Bonnie like, hey, I'm not angry at you, I know you're doing a great job, it's just, that's just my frustration with the event.
Well,
shit, man.
So when stuff started going wrong, what was the atmosphere like among everyone? Were you guys just like kind of like laughing, making like trying to like just shaking your head at how ridiculous it was, or was everyone just like super stressed, like sad?
I think it was like frustration to begin with, and like maybe a little sadness or whatever. But I think it was like frustrated, but also somewhat of an expectation that this would happen. Once things like really started getting bad, it actually just turned into like absurd. Like it was too surreal at a certain point that we were just all kind of laughing at it. Like, okay, so, maybe I'm skipping ahead a little bit too much, but let me just say, like, when James got fired and everybody's like, oh, the atmosphere of fear, you could tell, like, oh, God, the casters are so sad and upset and everything else. That's really not the case. We were actually, like, having a great time because everything was so surreal at that point in time that James got fired.
Let me just say that, like, it did, when I was watching, it did feel like everyone was pulling back a lot. I'm not even... that's actually, maybe you didn't feel like that way, but it came off that way. Probably partially because it seemed like James was fired, obviously, so like everyone wanted it to seem that way. But it also did feel that way. Like no one was really relaxing and having fun for the immediate day after James was fired. Like I was watching it, like both hosts were very like keeping everyone on track, like asking very specific, like generic questions. There wasn't much deviating. There wasn't much improvising. Like it was different than the Frankfurt panel where like people were kind of like going back and forth with Red Eye and Milk. It definitely didn't happen like that when I was watching it immediately after, because it was like that when James was there.
But I would say that like is 90% more to do with the change of hosts and with just fatigue. I think everyone was just tired because they were longer days and you were dealing with a lot of pauses and stuff like that. Maybe people were still dealing with jet lag, but I think it had to do a lot more. Like there was times where like Blitz was just like really tired and people were like, oh, Blitz is so sad. But
I mean, that part got me really frustrated because...
Wait, Blitz, before you explain why you're sad, can I just make an assumption about why you were sad?
Yeah, shoot.
No, that was a joke. It was a bad joke, I guess.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I
You can tell me now.
I get it with
told me. No, but it was like, I kept reading on Reddit. I was like the poster boy for,
I mean,
like,
you looked
every
real
top comment
bored.
was like, it was, okay. I will say that the one thing that James did as a host that I really enjoyed was that we just got to talk about players. Like, I think it's actually pretty boring to talk about like generic heroes, and
What about teams
like,
as a whole?
yeah, it's like you can pretty much get anybody to do that job. So I'll admit that I was kind of like probably a little bit more disinterested than I had to be, but I think that was like my fault too, because yeah, I mean, you know how I am, right? You especially. If I don't want to do something, then I'm gonna like shut down.
I
You'll
was the
get
fucking
Cap to do it.
convince Blitz to be on the panel every time.
Yeah, exactly. That's
And he's
just
good
like
on
my
the panel,
personality.
but you have to like convince him to be on the panel. Like,
Yeah,
yes, you're good on the
exactly.
panel. Go on the panel and like be yourself.
So for me, it was a little bit weird because A, I don't like being on the panel, like Hotbid just revealed, and B, we were pretty much just like talking about Dota stuff, which um, I wasn't like having a lot of fun with. And also, the biggest thing was that I was just tired. I was getting like, me and Cap were getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep. It smelled like cigarette in our room like all the time, and I just like was not sleeping well.
I would like to
Plus,
okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
shoot. No, I was just saying I was getting sick and stuff. And then I saw these memes about like, man, Blitz looks really tired and sick and must really be affected by the whole James
Look, his eyes
drama.
aren't even open. They must be
Yeah,
hiding
and
the
then
tears.
and then I was just like, somebody posted like a picture of me that looked like really it was just me normal. Like I remember when that photo was taken, I was holding like Cap's necro thing. It was just like I just have really tiny eyes. Like I have abnormally small eyes.
I mean, your eyes are
So
probably just as big. They're just like covered by eyelids. That's all.
yeah, I was like, but you know what I mean, right? Like, so it just looks like I'm
Yeah.
sleepy, and I was kind of offended by that. And then the biggest moment that people said it was like we were casting me and Cap, and I was going pretty ham on LGD, and I apologized for it. I was like, sucks, because I just don't like flaming teams or players very hard in general.
Yeah.
Like Cap can vouch for that. If I do that,
Yeah.
I will almost always say, my bad. And then people,
Which I almost always try and get him off of, but
Yeah.
he does it anyway. That's like his thing.
And then people took that to mean like, wow, Blitz is really afraid of getting fired by Valve or some shit. Like, dude,
Yeah.
I was not afraid of my job stability at all. Like, once
You guys,
James got fired, there was zero chance I was getting
Yeah.
fired.
I was
I
thinking
could
the
pretty
same
much
thing,
do
dude.
anything,
Like
and I couldn't get fired.
when
Can you guys describe the situation? Like, I want to hear like the firsthand account of him getting fired from your guys' POV, because like it probably was pretty shocking. Like just
Yeah. Well, the way I heard it was Cap like rushes in and tells me like, "Yo, James got fired," and I was like, "What?" And then that was how I heard it.
and then
So
Cap was
Cap's
like, "James got fired."
Yeah, I just yelled it at him. No, but I was actually on the panel for the segment that ended up getting him fired, which I actually wasn't nervous about. I mean, maybe I was like a little bit nervous because I'd been kind of making fun of things as well pretty hard, but I actually felt more just bad because what I think, like whoever was watching at the time, I think what really kind of triggered everything was like it was all this kind of build up, but it was the way that James like went in on Eternal Envy. Like he was just like I was sitting there going like, holy crap! Like James like half of it wasn't even funny. It was just like James just flaming the hell out of Eternal Envy, and I was like, but I kind of baited it too. I kept like baiting it. And I was like, oh yeah, Eternal Envy, and then James would just go off some more. So I felt kind of bad. I was like, oh crap, I didn't like mean to set that up, but
Yeah, I see.
we did our panel, and like the thing was, it was like an hour and a half long, that panel segment, because we were having pauses or whatever. I think it was like a pause at the beginning of the game, and so we just kept going, and like we just kept like trying to make entertaining things, and that's what James is really good at. So we kept kind of like setting these scenarios up where we were just having a lot of fun, and production kept telling him you can go to a break, but he was like, nah, we're just gonna keep going, essentially try and keep the show going as long as possible. And we filled up so much time. I think that segment went actually really well. I remember having a really good time with it. But afterwards, like the game starts, Bruno comes in, says he needs to talk to James. They go out. Next thing you know, James comes back, tells us that he just got fired and that he won't be doing the panel anymore. And that was, I think it was Ben and I who were sitting on the couch at that point trying to watch the game. And that was That kind of blew my mind. I was like, what? Because I expected, a reprimand or something like that, but he just straight up got dropped. And I think he seems a little bit. I mean, people like to think that James is like always outgoing and arrogant and all those sorts of things, but from what I could tell, I could see that it definitely affected him.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to feel good about that as it instantly happens.
Yeah.
He did even write in his statement though that he said he was in a way reprimanded right at the start, right? So
Oh yeah,
that was the only time.
I didn't know about that, but yeah, he definitely. I think as Hotbid put it earlier, when he dropped the C word, I think he got told, you can't do that, sort of thing. So that wasn't like it was his first offense or anything. He did get warned before, but I just didn't know about it. So when it was just he came in, he was like, I got fired. I was like, whoa, what the hell just happened?
I feel like almost no caster is in danger of crossing that same line as well.
Oh
it's,
yeah,
it's definitely in a realm that's like for most casters, especially almost all the top ones, it's not even like close to being an issue. So, and initially I was like, I wonder if they're scared, but I was like, no one's actually gonna go that extreme. So
I don't think anyone's
that
gotten
was what
close.
bugged me. It was
I
like
don't think anyone's even gotten close, honestly.
People were like, "Oh, they're so afraid and stuff." But honestly, if you guys just listen to what James is James. James is an entirely different entity than anything else that anyone would ever approach.
I was 100% sure my job was like secure no matter what, and I feel like out of all the casters, I kind of push. I curse probably more than anybody. Like I did at the TI5 main event, and I wasn't even reprimanded for that. I was told like when I cursed or something that as long as it wasn't anything too severe, if it's in the heat of the moment, they would prefer me to just be myself. They're just like go with it.
I was gonna make a sex joke there, but I couldn't quite formulate one fast enough.
Okay, so James gets fired, and then it's like kind of a lot of hate and complaints for a while. Did you guys know that Valve was gonna respond with something? Did you guys know like a statement was coming?
Did Gabe never tell you personally? He like text you and be like, "Hey guys, check Reddit in 5 minutes. This can be good."
Like and then he like personally posts in the Dota 2 subreddit, which is like, by the way, unprecedented. None of that's like never happened before, and it actually ground our entire office to a halt. Like when it happened, everyone just stopped doing what they were doing and just congregated and talked about and like browsed Reddit and talked about what was going on because it was actually insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like what did everyone just stop and start reading the statement or what?
It came out in the morning for us, so I woke up to it. I woke up fairly early. I checked Reddit, and it had just been posted like 10 minutes prior. So I got a chance to get on that nice and early. But the funniest part of all this was like we were all kind of talking about it, but James didn't wake up until probably about 3 hours later. After the thread had been posted and everything, and I still have the WhatsApp conversation. I print screened it because it was just so funny, and I'm trying to find it right now. But basically, it was like James gets up. He's like, "Hey, what's everyone up to?" And then I think it was Weppes was like, "Have you seen Reddit yet?" Like, no. It's like Gabe had posted in it. It was like, "Oh, really? What did he say?" Weppes is like, "He called you an ass." And James responded, "Epic." And that was the firing of James Harding.
All right. Well, I feel like we discussed that issue enough. How did you guys feel about the event going after that? Like the rest of the group stage, KeyTV got fired as well. Obviously, they did poor planning. Like, what would you guys say was the main issue with them as a company trying to help the group stage go well? Like, what was the main faults? Because there's a lot of like opinions that are going back and forth. There's their statements. There's Bonnie's statement. Others. Do you guys have any comments on that?
I just think by far the biggest issue was I had no idea who I was supposed to talk to about anything. Like, if you had an issue at any other event, I would almost always know who to find, like as a central,
Like Hotbid
thing.
at
Like at the
Frankfurt.
Frankfurt Major, yeah, it's like I would go find Tom or Hotbid or Toby, not the caster Toby, but the one that works there, and I knew it would get fixed, my issue. But uh, at whatchamacallit, at Shanghai, I had like no idea who I was supposed to talk to. When I told somebody a problem, it felt like it was just like okay, and then it was never discussed again, and that happened like way too frequently.
What I saw was a few times they would cut to an interview and they would just not be ready.
Yeah, they
Um,
never really told us about that.
It was just like, I think there was an interview, I think it was Coddle Guy and I think Tiffany Oling, and I forget who it was, and she was just like, tell the camera when you're ready, and it's like already on them. It's been on them for like 30 seconds, right? And they're just standing there staring at the camera, and Coddle Guy makes the okay motion with his hand. And James's mic is also hot, and you can hear him say like,
Oh,
"My
yeah.
asshole is
Yeah,
this
I
big."
remember
And he goes, "My mic is muted, right?" Like right after that, and I just started laughing. That was on Odd Shot.
Yeah, I saw that one, and then it finally cut back to
Oh.
the panel, and you
Yeah,
guys
and it
realized
cut
you're
back
all
to the
still on
panel.
camera and mic.
There
So
was
go
there was a
ahead.
lot of equipment problems that were pretty bad, but I think that, like, judging from the actual event itself, I think that there's stories back and forth of like they're blaming each other and stuff, but I know KeyTV was definitely had a lot of flaws. Absolutely, there was a lot there, but I do think that they also had some issues set up by Perfect Worlds. Like apparently, like the equipment that was set up by Perfect Worlds, like it was all just bad to begin
Like
with.
queuing the interview to tell them that it's live. That's the director's job.
Oh
probably.
yeah, that's
They're just like, okay, you're live now or whatever. 3, 2, 1, whatever, and then like the interviewer should know. But because I read the thing that Bonnie wrote about the firing of KeyTV. Did it actually go down like that? Like, did someone like throw papers and yell and stuff? Were you there?
Yeah, that happened.
Oh
I
God.
was told by people like that guy lost his shit. It was T-Dog, man. That was the funniest part.
It was who?
It was this guy that we had worked with that wore like a onesie. It was pretty funny. Like I think he was trying to be fashionable, but it wasn't. And he was like a weird guy, but I thought he was pretty funny. And imagining him like ripping up papers and telling Bonnie to leave with him was a pretty funny sight.
He just Jerry Maguired it, and Bonnie didn't go with him.
Yeah, he's like she was not as ready.
Stand up and like run. Like, help me, help you, Bonnie.
They also took because KeyTV brought some of their equipment with them because there were some issues with the original equipment. They took all their equipment with them, so then we ended up with the clip-on mics. We had to use those for the casting panel. I
remember that.
Or for the casting desk the first couple of times.
Yeah, but the casting desk, I mean, they sounded fine, honestly. Most of the sound issues seemed like they came from within the game.
Yeah, it was just funny because they used like a regular headset kind of thing, and then they just like wrapped and taped the clip-on mic around it. It was like this jerry rig setup by K-pop and Rob, just to be able to make like the best of a bad scenario, which obviously it worked out pretty well. But it was just kind of absurd that halfway through the group stage, essentially, equipment just starts getting taken away.
So after KeyTV was fired, was it mostly K-pop and Rob that were helping out, or who was doing the production?
As far as I can tell, K-pop and Rob were doing large parts of it, as well as the Valve employees were really helping out. Thad and Bruno were doing a large share of helping out with production as well. And then I believe they put some Perfect World people in as well.
Did the other non-KeyTV part of Perfect World understand how bad it was going, or was it just a separate contained thing?
I have no idea, to be honest. I
feel
mean,
like
our issues weren't like the English stream wasn't the only ones having issues. The Russian
okay.
streams was having problems as well. I think I heard that the Chinese stream was having some issues. Obviously, nowhere near to the extent of ours, though.
I and then what did you guys feel about, like the other stuff, like the onstage interviews? They seemed to go okay. Except that one lady called Fear PPD once. That was pretty funny.
Wait, have we even gotten to the topic of main event stuff yet? We're not even done with group stage yet.
I thought we were just talking about the stuff in general at this point. We're still going chronologically? Okay, let's go.
Alright, so that was basically the turnover of the group stage. K-pop and Rob helped with the tech issues in the in-between, and then they got a new company to come and do production, is that correct?
Yeah, I think it was still Perfect World. There was somebody like KeyTV or something said that they brought in English people to do it, but that wasn't true. Unless they were referring to K-pop and Rob, but there was definitely still Perfect World people working.
What was the
our English production?
What was the interim? Like, there was a few days, right? It was like 2 days or 3 days.
Between the
what
group
was that
stage
time
and-
like? What did you guys do, and what was it? Did everyone sit together and like hold hands, like pray, or what?
Well, we didn't have rehearsal again. I can tell you that much. It was another one of those scenarios where they told us, like, okay, at this point in time, you're going to head over to the stadium. And then eventually it just turned into, nothing is set up. Which apparently they had an extra 24 hours to get everything set up, and it still wasn't ready in time for us to do rehearsal. And I don't believe we did a morning rehearsal either. So
Well,
ended up being pretty bad. As
Good.
far as what we did in the in-between day, I honestly don't remember.
it's good they had that extra 24 hours, because at least the stage looked great from camera. So to imagine that they just simply weren't ready 24 hours before, they would have had to like cut corners somewhere, and it just would have been something else would have been gone wrong. That would have been.
Oh yeah, I can
insane.
only imagine if they didn't have that 24 hours. Like I can imagine like the boost wouldn't be finished, or because if you go out onto that stage, you can see like there were definitely a lot of issues with it. It just wasn't very noticeable on camera.
So I mean, like, there were a lot of players that kind of went crazy complaining about it. I know Swindle had like 30 tweets or something about bullshit that happened to him. But there was an interim period, right? And then the
Mhm.
next day, what was your expectation? Did you feel it was going to be better, or did you also think like, oh my god, this is going to be like bad? Because I think the first day of the main event was quite bad too. I mean, it got better as the main event went along, but the first day of the main event was when most of the issues happened.
I'm gonna tell you right now, my view of things is really skewed because I have not been casting as long as any of these guys, and like in general, most of these things like just don't bother me because I don't know what like a good or a bad production's supposed to be like. I just know like I show up, I do my job, and my job is like probably one of the easier ones at the event, right? Like co-casting is pretty simple.
Yeah,
Just
it's
like
the
show
easiest
up.
job.
Yeah, it's like I show up, I talk about Dota, and that's that. Like I have almost the reason why I've been quiet during like this segment is because I don't really have complaints. Like there was nothing that bothered me. The food situation could have been better, but like I didn't really care too much about like any of the production stuff because I'm not involved in that, and I just like show up and cast. So from my perspective, things like seemed fine.
And
I'm
I think
sure.
from a lot of players' perspective, I think the event was fine for them as well. I think it was mainly
Yeah,
just viewers and production and casters in a way that
I talked to
that the event was really bad.
Misery at the like shortly after James got fired, and I said it sucks like for the players because all this drama is taking away from the event, and it's supposed to be about you guys. And he said, to be honest, I don't really give a shit. He's like, I'm here to play Dota. I think everybody else feels the same way.
Well, I mean, I think he probably cared about the booth being bluey, right?
I think that part, yeah, but it's like everything else, he was just like, I don't really care about all the drama that's happening. He's like, I just want to play Dota.
as
He's
long
like,
as the
fuck
players are
everything
able to
else.
focus, it's probably fine from their
Yeah,
perspective.
if the players were eventually able to, like, because I know that they had complained about sound issues, like initially, like booths not being soundproof, but they fixed that, and then also like they eventually got ventilation to fix the glue issue, right? So, I mean, it couldn't have been so bad because I felt like the game quality was quite high.
Yeah.
But you know, like, and the monitor issue at the start, right? So, I mean, at least we have that, you know, to
Oh yeah,
I mean-
honestly, this tournament was fantastic when it came to games. If it wasn't for having such great games, this tournament probably would have gotten a lot more negative press.
Yeah, and I guess we pretty much talked about everything that needs to be said from drama perspective. Things got better towards the end. It obviously wasn't perfect, but like we said, the games were amazing.
I mean, well, I still got more to talk about for the main event. If you guys,
I mean,
want to hear
Purge,
more.
stop. The audience wants to hear everything. Let's.
Okay, I didn't know if you had more. Honestly, that was my perspective. Like my
Kev's got
perspective
more.
ends here. This is like the stuff that I know about.
Yeah, Blitz is like, there's something.
Well, no,
wrong.
we didn't even talk about the gigantic document, the crazy document.
Yeah.
like-
I mean,
I know no
don't-
one wants to talk about that, but I would just like to hear your reaction to that being released, because that was also crazy. So like the game thing gets released, and then did everyone know that James had this like bomb that he was gonna drop, or what? Was everyone like, okay?
I
what's gonna
talked to
happen next?
James, and I remember like he was kind of talking about whether or not he should do this, like whether or not he should drop this bomb, essentially. So I did kind of have a heads up that that was going to happen, but yeah.
But I mean, it was pretty like open shut, right? Like they said they weren't working with him again, so he was just like, okay, and then he just dropped the bomb, right? I imagine that's like his logic or thought process behind it.
Yeah, it was probably from like maybe like, will this affect my chances with companies outside of Valve? I actually don't know what his thought process was and whether he wouldn't do it or not, but I can only imagine. But as
I
far
saw
as that
Toby,
document itself went, I remember thinking like a lot of this stuff just didn't involve like the TI3, TI4, like all that stuff. Like it didn't really involve me. I did group stage for TI4, so I was pretty like kind of new on the scene. I was just happy to be there and get paid. And yeah, the whole setup with the chess, I think was I think that was really bad. Because you're telling like I remember thinking like I'm not going to tell anybody to buy my chess because why would I? Because I know as a lower commentator that I'll never exceed my minimum, right? So at that point in time, every single dollar that somebody's putting in there to quote unquote tip me isn't actually going to me at all. It's going straight to Valve. So it feels like it's kind of like I'm lying to the few fans that I had at that time.
I thought about probably why Valve did that later, and it was my guess is that if they wouldn't have, because shoot, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Basically, if you guys like cases like you where you didn't sell your minimum, if you guys got paid for every signature you sold, then you'd be getting way more money than anybody that didn't get that base minimum. So if they gave us a base minimum as US casters, but didn't give a base minimum to Russian, Chinese, etc., then if you actually made money for every signatures, it'd be like Valve would just be giving only English talent free money. It would be completely unfair for anybody outside. So it wasn't like a perfect system, but there were like that's just the consequences of the way that they chose to pay people, and in the future it's just not fully fair.
Yeah, I don't think they intended anything negative with it, and they fixed it for the next TI. So
I mean, I knew for sure
think
that
it was just
I knew for sure I was not making the minimum. Like I was just like, I'm gonna get paid this amount, like, and then you know my friends would buy like 50 of the chests with my face on it because they thought it was hilarious to put in their profile, and that's pretty much it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's like, can I buy one? I'm like, you don't even own a PC to run Dota. Like, she's like, how do I buy one? I'm like, you're not buying one. Like, Mom, stop.
But I want a picture of my son.
Yeah.
From my
You have that, I
perspective,
can send you that picture.
I thought the pay was like good independently. Like when I saw the drama, like again, I was like, I don't know why people are freaking out because the base salary seemed really fair. It was
and it got
was
negotiated
proposed.
up too.
Yeah, exactly. Like we got double what it originally was, if I remember correctly. Anyways,
Well, it depended what job you did, because they
Yeah.
scaled it up based on if you're doing better
Group
things
versus
than just
main.
group. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so originally I was getting paid like nothing.
Yeah, but then it was like in Valve's defense or whatever. As soon as the proposal was made for a raise, there was like no blowback from them. They were like, okay, cool. And
Yeah, and they didn't
I was
have
like,
to raise mine, but they did.
yeah, exactly.
I was happy
Like, they
with the
raised
first amount.
they raised everybody's across the board, not just the people who
Yeah.
negotiated or anything. And so I was incredibly satisfied with the pay. Like,
Yeah.
I saw no issues with it.
I signed like 2 or 3 contracts. They could have just, if they really wanted to fuck me over, they could have just left me with the first one, for example. But every time that the number was negotiated up, they had us re-sign contracts. So yeah, there's definitely some big issues about it. Like, it was done a little bit too late and too last minute, and the foreigners didn't get the base pay. But at the end of it, it was a way that they created for us to make more money than we would have if they didn't do it. Like, they did that for us.
Yeah, I didn't think anybody was like getting shadied out or anything like that. I saw like a lot of comments on Reddit saying like, wow, that sucks for the casters or whatever, but I was incredibly satisfied with my base pay for every TI that I've worked so far.
That is
And-
why it is very cutthroat.
Yeah,
People
exactly.
want that shit, so they
And-
work hard.
Yeah, I guess just to be transparent with the community or whatever, like Valve does take care during TI and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's
And-
just more short sight. They're not being evil. It was
Yeah.
just some of it was just short sight, I think.
I'm not a company person or whatever, and I don't really care one way or another. So shit doesn't really sway me one way or another. So I guess I can be honest in that regard, right? I feel pretty good about what I've made so far, working TIs and majors, but it is what it is. Like, I'm pretty happy with all things considered. And then for TI5, if I remember correctly, they changed it so that it was like additional on top of the base salary.
Was it?
Yeah,
It was definitely.
Okay. I couldn't remember whether or not it was.
So from a feedback perspective, whenever I feel like we as casters have an issue, I can't speak for everybody because I think we should always negotiate for better or whatever, but things are getting like better almost immediately. It just seems more like a lack of foresight than anything, than any sort of maliciousness.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like I've heard times where they offer, like the first offer is like quite low, and it's like well below the standard, but they also don't know what the standard is, I think. And that I think there was just, again, just a lot of short sight when it comes to certain things, but I think that's pretty natural for a new scene.
I saw Toby tweet that about like he wanted the link. He was like casting at the time or something.
Oh
He
yeah.
was posting the thing. That was so funny. I was
What-
laughing.
what-
He was like, oh yeah, can someone give me a non-Google link? Because
he couldn't access it.
Yeah.
And he was
It was on
casting.
Google
So I was like,
Drive.
Toby, aren't you casting right now? He's like, it's the draft.
I mean, let's be real here. Toby doesn't give a shit about the draft. Like, what is Toby gonna like see from the draft that's like, oh, that'll change the way that I cast this game?
Draw Ranger. In one
God.
case, he'll be erect.
They
In
did
the other
use
case,
Drown
he won't be
Ranger that
erect
one
till he
time in
casts.
Yeah.
Yo, real quickly, just to get on to the rest of the stuff that I want to bitch about. When it comes to the main event, it was pretty much the worst setup that I've ever seen from talent perspective. I know Blitz didn't really experience this because Blitz could have gone wherever he wanted, being part of Team Liquid. But when you go to an event as a caster, it's really important for you to be able to watch the games, right? Because sometimes you have breaks, sometimes you're on the panel, you just have downtime. You need to be able to watch the games in order to provide some analysis. And the worst part was that casters were assigned to the ground floor, and there was literally nowhere else you could go. So you were only stuck in you were stuck in the production area of the tournament. So you couldn't actually go up to where the fans were sitting. You couldn't go up to where the teams were sitting. Nothing like that. So everyone was kind of stuck in this production area, and the viewing areas were really bad. There was like the VIP room, which wasn't even set up, and they ended up locking like after the first day and never opening back up. There was the food room, which didn't have any. The TVs weren't even plugged in for like the first half of the first day. And then when they were plugged in, they had a 5-minute delay, and they were also in Chinese. So no offense to the Chinese casters or anything, but the Chinese cameraman is pretty terrible from what I've gathered, at least. So if you're a panelist, you couldn't sit there and watch the game because it's a 5-minute delay. Like if all of a sudden the game ends and you're not expecting that, you're gonna be late to the panel. So then you had to sit in the panel area, and pretty much all the English talent did that. But it was super super hot in there because it was this really cramped room with a bunch of people in there plus a bunch of lights and equipment and stuff. So it was like scorching hot. There was nowhere to really sit, and that just made it like really hard to because that's the saddest part is that when Toby got done with his lower bracket finals, he didn't stick around for the stadium, nor should he have. He went back and watched it from the hotel because it was so much easier to watch it from there. Like it was a better viewing experience for him to just watch it from his hotel room on hotel Wi-Fi that lags every 10 seconds.
So that was why there were always pictures of like casters laying on the side of the desk
Yes.
setup, basically, because that was like the only place you guys could watch. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is my only major complaint. That the panel area was complete ass. Like it was super hot. Like me and Cap were planning on wearing ties, and we
Yeah, I
pretty much
tweeted
had to
about
like nix. We had to nix that.
Oh yeah, I
It
remember
was-
your tweet about ties. First.
Yeah, it opens up
Yeah.
and no one was wearing a tie. I was like, what the fuck? But like, how,
No,
how, how
it
hot
was-
was it if you guys were to estimate?
It was like 90+ degrees.
Okay.
What?
It was like a fucking furnace. I was
Why? I
sweating
didn't see anyone
like
really
nonstop.
sweating.
Well, I don't know how it was for everybody else, but I was like,
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was 90 degrees, but maybe at one point in time. But it was definitely like I would say an average of 80 at most times.
yeah. When I first
They
got
brought
there,
in an AC unit later on, but that
I
didn't
have
work
no
very well.
hair on my body.
Except for that one.
I'm not insulated at all or whatever, but I was sweating, and I normally do not sweat at all, and I was like dying. You remember Korea, Kevin? Like when
Yeah,
we were
that-
inside the
that one
house?
hot summer.
That's
my God.
actually, I got like hot flashbacks to that. I was like, what is this? Because
That
we
was
were
the
like
hottest
full
summer I've
suit
ever-
and tie. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is going on? That was my major complaint, was that the panel area for the main event was simply unacceptable. And-
The food wasn't great at the event,
Yeah.
but the bigger issue, like whatever, you can make do with bad food. But the bigger issue was that like they would stop serving foods like relatively early on, and then you were just kind of screwed. So I remember there were a couple times, like I remember one time I went back. It was like one of the later days, and I went back. I was like, all right, time to quickly get some food because I was in between going from panel to casting. Quickly get some food from the food area before I go out to the casting desk. And I walk in there and I open up one of the trays. It's empty. All the food has been taken away. And I was just like, right, why did I expect there to be food here in the food room? And I just went back to sitting on the casting desk.
So did you guys like even hit your minimum calories for the day? There's like no way, right?
I think I lost some weight there, to be honest.
I mean,
That's-
we just
that's new.
ordered room service after every.
That's good. You guys lost some weight.
Many times I just ate breakfast, and then
Yeah.
by the time I got back, I was just passed out.
So usually
Somebody-
when you go to events,
somebody
you
was
eat
bringing us
badly and gain
noodles.
weight. So now you lost some weight going to an event. It's a positive.
Yep, it's true.
All right.
I need to lose weight,
Anything
too.
else you guys wanted to talk about that we didn't know about drama wise? All right. I was just kidding before. I want to know who fucked who. Tell me.
A
Blitz and Cap were in the same room. I heard.
This is true. This is true.
Any other?
I mean,
weird
I didn't want to say
rumors?
anything. I didn't want Kevin to be jealous or anything.
No, it's okay. It's
Are
easy to
you
give
over
that up
that?
when I don't have to take care of him. Other shit like that. You probably had to
Oh,
fuck
I
that
really
hair out of
do.
his leg, didn't you?
Wait, Kevin, can we bond over this real quick?
Oh, yeah,
Did
for
you
sure.
ever have that moment where you were like standing in like were you both standing in front of the mirror and it was like in the movies when the wife is behind her husband, she's like doing the tie for him or in front
Unfortunately,
of him?
no, because he didn't actually wear a tie when we were in Korea. But I definitely had to like make sure that his clothes were clean going into the event because sometimes they'd just be like dirty. And I'd be like, dude, you need to wear your fucking shirt. And he would like make excuses and like drag his feet about it. And I'd be like, dude, this has to happen. These guys are paying us money, shit like that.
having like a tall, good-looking white friend is like the best. You guys just like always take care of me. I never have to worry about anything.
What about like your sister and your mother? I feel like you're not giving them enough credit right now. You're like saying it was
Oh
only
yeah,
white
shout
guys
out to
fixing your life.
shout out to Grace.
Do you know
Blitz
what
has
happened?
Blitz has like 5 moms. Let's be real.
Yeah, that's pretty great actually.
Dude, you know what
That's
happened?
the thing though.
Yeah.
We went to the BTS house the other day to play board games and Smash and stuff, and we watched the finals. And it was What Is Hip, myself, Hotbid, who's the fourth, Kawa, and Grace showed up too. Grace literally did Greg's laundry. Like, that's how bad she wanted to take care of somebody. Because she was so fucking trained to take care of your whole life. So she just did Greg's laundry, and I could tell she was enjoying it, dude.
Like Greg just sat there and like he did the laundry and Grace was like, "Do you want me to fold this for you?" And Greg's like, "No, like I don't want you to like do my laundry. That's like weird." And she just couldn't like she actually just couldn't resist doing it. Like she went and just like folded it.
It was
No,
incredible.
I mean,
No Merlini for like 3 weeks, no Blitz
That's-
for like a while. Grace is like, "I need to mother someone." And she was
But
like,
that's
"Okay."
that's the difference between my experience with like events and why everything is like cool with me, you know, because
Because everyone
I'm-
does your work for you.
yeah, everybody like
What the fuck? What kind of-
everybody like takes care of something for me or things are cool.
No complaints.
know.
I'm just, the most pampered
No,
Jesus,
it's like
guy.
I know people are gonna watch this VOD and be like, man, Blitz is like a Valve shill or whatever because I don't have an issue with my pay or I didn't really have issues with any of the events or anything, but like, for the most part, like nothing bad ever happens to me at events. Like the most I can complain about
You
is
are
that the panel
actually
area was
inviting
really
something
fucking
bad to
hot.
happen next time.
Yeah.
What about how
punch you in the
far
face.
it took you to get to Chipotle at Frankfurt? Would that count
Oh,
as
that
being
was
bad enough?
no, that was a plus. Chipotle being at Frankfurt was like the main thing I remember about Frankfurt.
Yeah, you don't understand, Kevin. We've been in food purgatory for a long time now.
Yeah, that was
That's the
best.
only Chipotle in all of Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It
that
was
was so
literally like
amazing.
across the street.
It was over a fence, though. That was kind of inconvenient. Yeah, what about
It
that
was
time, Will, when you
inconvenient for
jumped that
Blitz.
fence and you fell in a spiked bush? Is that maybe the worst
Oh,
thing that's happened to you in an event?
I mean, that was pretty funny actually, because Toby actually screwed me really hard. Otherwise, I would have been fine. Did you hear about this, Cap? Or Cap actually saw the after effects of what happened. I guess I'll just tell the story for anybody curious. Me and Toby went to the wrong building, and I blame Toby for this because he told me he recognized the building, and we were gonna be late because we were working the first game together, and we had walked all the way around, and we were like on a gate. We were like 10 feet high or something, and I told Toby, I turned to him pretty dramatically. I'm like, we're gonna have to jump this, and he's like, okay, and he was pussying out, so I just went because I'm pretty YOLO about my body, and so I jump. And I make it pretty cleanly, but then Toby says, "Watch out for that bush, like that thorn bush," and I panic, and I slip, and I land in the thorn bush.
Like
and
while
I
you're
got,
jumping
like,
or something?
yeah, like mid jump. Toby
What,
tells
you would have
me-
landed perfectly if he didn't
Yes,
say anything?
I panicked.
Are
I
you
was
serious right now?
I don't
That's
believe
like
this
the
for a
biggest
second.
Johns
Yeah.
I've ever heard.
Oh, dude, I
Yeah,
fucking-
Toby screwed me when he warned me about something bad happening.
Yeah,
and then
like-
that
Oh, I
bad
got
thing
scared.
happened.
Come on.
I was
Blitz,
honestly gonna be fine.
is
but
Blitz,
I
like-
panicked.
Blitz like vaulting in the Olympics. He's about to like complete a perfect 10 vault, and someone's like, "Watch out for that pommel horse!" And then Blitz just like flips over and falls on his face.
No,
I would have
but
won the
seriously,
gold medal, guys.
He put the fear in me. So then I ate shit. I landed in the thorn bush. If anybody saw, like I was actually really cut up.
Yeah, you were in your dress
Fucked up.
clothes, I remember.
Yeah, I was like, they were actually just like, there was like blood. And
You know-
I had to go to the restroom and they had to find me like bandages and stuff.
Whoever dressed you that day
Whoa.
forgot to put a white undershirt on you, though. So
Finish-
that
finish that
protects you a
story,
bit
though.
more.
Finish that story. What happened to Toby?
Oh, Toby made the jump perfectly fine. because
Yeah.
I literally flattened that bush.
No, it's probably because you didn't say something while he was mid jump. That's the only reason Toby didn't get
Yeah.
fucked up.
No, you probably loosened the fence for him. So he probably got over it just like a jar. You loosened it for him, so he did it fine. So yeah, I saw there were a lot of cosplayers, and then they didn't let the Meepo girls in. Do you guys know why?
I actually
I
didn't
don't.
know.
No Meepo girl.
I mean, they let him later on in their Meepo costumes, so I have no clue.
Yeah, because I saw pictures of them with Weehaw. So I was like, eventually they got let in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they gave
I-
us like some snacks or something. They gave us like, they made us
Oh
do
yeah,
some, like,
Russian
video.
food. Hmm.
Yeah,
They gave us traditional Russian treats.
Were there a
Or
lot of foreigners
Ukrainian,
at the
I'm not
event?
sure which.
I know you guys didn't go
No,
into the fan section.
there was
much.
very few.
I probably talked to about 5 or 6 different people who spoke English. That just happened. Like one of them was a student and he was studying in Hong Kong. Another guy just happened to have like family in the area, so he came and visited. Various things like that.
Were they
Not many.
what did they think about the event? Were they unhappy with it? Were they happy with the experience? Did they, what was it like among the fans?
I think the one guy I talked to said that he was pretty unsatisfied with the food situation and said it kind of sucked that he couldn't really interact with anybody.
Yeah,
the guy said he had gone to TI and he said it was really different than what he expected.
one of the weird things is like once you went in, you couldn't leave. So then people
that's
had to
standard
eat
for
the.
every, that's pretty standard for every stadium event, though.
Yeah, but then you had to eat the venue foods, and that was just like terrible, apparently.
Yeah, I saw the hot dog picture, the $7 hot dog.
I was right up Blitz's alley, probably. Like a half-cooked baked potato or something, and
Yeah.
he would have been set.
And people were complaining about the food, but I just had Austin go and get me fried chicken from those top stands. I was fine.
Wow, sounds not inconvenient at all for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you guys notice
okay,
how
then.
like Blitz doesn't have a problem because he doesn't actually experience the same thing that everyone else is experiencing.
It's like I didn't have anything to complain about because this other guy got me food whenever I wanted to. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
at some point,
some
Cap,
days-
you gotta make him pay for that shit. Like, charge him $4. I started getting money out of him at the end. It was great.
I'm pretty sure
he probably
Cap,
doesn't want me to tell you
money-wise,
that,
is doing fine.
No, I'm just
No,
saying,
I-
if he's gonna do work for you
Get
just
some more
because
value,
you're like,
yeah.
like
what do you
stupendously
think I'm
lazy.
doing fine money wise?
What? I help him out. Kevin, I pay for a lot of shit.
This is true.
You could pay
I
directly
do not.
for
I
the
will never
courier
charge
service.
Blitz for something like this because
DoorDash
Blitz oftentimes
charges
plays for our room
$3.99.
service.
DoorDash charges $3.99 to run to Panda Express, so I mean you could charge at least $2 to get him chicken from wherever you're going.
Think about it in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's also my free ride sometimes when it comes to room service.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like 2 to 1. I pay for like 1 for every 2 that he pays.
I see.
Mm-hmm. So it all
Okay.
evens out
All
in
right.
the end.
But he
Well,
also orders like 3 times as much room service. Like every single time I came back, there was a room service tray in front of our room, and when I'm coming back late at night.
all right. Since this is a Dota podcast, do you guys want to talk about the Dota that happened?
There was Dota.
All right. I think we can break it down pretty simply. I think 4 teams performed way better than what people expected, and I would say Phoenix, Fnatic, Liquid, and Complexity. Does that sound fairly accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I expected Team Liquid to do top 4. I didn't expect the grand finals. Honestly, I didn't think they were that kind of team that could make grand finals.
Blitz, how did you feel about their chances going in since you were there at their bootcamp?
Yeah. Let me preface this by saying, so Kuro approached me, I want to say, I told Hotbid about it because I consulted his opinion. This was like, I'd say a month before the main event started. Kuro asked me randomly if I wanted to help. I said sure, so I started watching all of their scrims, like literally for a month straight leading up to the event, and I had like all of them recorded. And there were a lot of issues that the team had, and over like the course of that month, most of them got resolved. Like the team was definitely a different team than you had seen from other events and stuff. And then with like 3 days left in the boot camp, we got Bulba to come too, and Bulba was to be also like the coach because I couldn't help out at the main event.
Mm-hmm.
Because well, A, that's conflict of interest, but B, I just wouldn't be available, right? Because I was casting.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. How often?
I couldn't actually help them at all during the main event. Like it pretty much just became I was there for like moral support. Like if I saw them in the hallways, but you know I do that with pretty much a lot of players.
What about biased
Like,
casting? Did you help them that way?
that, if anything, I felt like I was really biased against them.
You were
Because I
sending
felt
them your
comfortable.
energy.
No, I felt pretty comfortable because I remember specifically I was asked like between EG, Liquid, and MVP who would meet Secret in the finals, and I said I was the first person. I said unequivocally I thought it'd be EG, but Liquid looked like a top 8 team, I would say, top 6 team. But they really started to kind of pick things up and figure the tournament meta out really quickly, which I think is probably the most important thing.
Until the finals, where they faced up against Doom.
I will tell you that I think in the last, like, that finals, I think broke Kuro. Like, I don't think the last game. I guess like the tournament's over. I can talk about it now. Not once during bootcamp scrims or before that had they run a draw strat before. It was definitely just like, let's see how this works kind of thing. I think at that point, things were just like secret one.
You think they lost morale halfway through the series, is what you're saying?
I'm
His play seemed like that from a viewer perspective. Like, he missed a lot of stuff that players don't miss, and when a pro player does that, it's very clear it's like tilt or something like that, or morale, or I don't know, stuff like that. It seemed like he definitely lost faith in his abilities like halfway through that game, or at least early on in that game. That's entirely what it looked like from a viewer.
The biggest thing that I could tell from working with the team is, I think I even posted on Reddit about it. Every single one of Secret's wins looks so easy, and every single one of Liquid's wins looks so hard. Like, the one time Liquid beat them, it felt like it took some Herculean effort by the entire team, even though they were up 2 sets of racks. And then when I was casting, I kind of knew at that point. Like, even after they tied it up 1-1, I was like mentally thinking, okay, like, unless they figured something out.
And then when they didn't win game 3,
yeah,
when they had such a strong draft.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest out draft, or that was probably the best draft that they were going to get in the finals.
Let me just say, like,
stopped.
No one, well, not a lot of people were putting Secret as one of the top teams in this tournament, right? Like, I think they were like not doing so well for quite a while since their like little streak. Did anyone really predict that they were gonna like win the way they did?
Definitely not.
Because I think like this tournament was like, this is why I kind of like watching professional Dota, because like almost anything can happen. Like, you kind of get an idea about which teams are good, but then like crazy stuff like this will happen where MVP suddenly just like does amazing, you know, like Complexity beats Alliance, you know, like this, and then like Liquid comes out of nowhere and like beats EG all of a sudden, and like almost you know, wins the entire thing. Like, crazy stuff happens. It's kind of cool because Secret like did not look good for a while, right?
Yeah.
Can I real quickly can I shut down the one fan who's frantically writing a comment in Reddit right now where he was like, "Oh, I had Team Secret pegged all the way." When you talk to the players, like, you talk to the players beforehand. I remember like talking to a bunch of them and like, who are you afraid of, and that sort of thing. Like, Team Secret like never really came into the discussion. I think that many of the other teams did not expect Team Secret to be the finals.
Expected to win.
I think after they got Theben, they did.
Oh yeah,
that's it. Like, I know they tweeted about it, but was it really that significant?
After seeing what happened at Bootcamp, I think having a coach around definitely can turn around quite a lot.
For what aspect? Because I feel like coaches are a very underutilized aspect of Dota 2, and most viewers have no clue how it works, what kinds of things they do in the team. It's not just about drafting, obviously. It's a lot of other stuff. What kind of things do you feel that Theben did or that you helped with that advanced them so much?
The biggest thing about a coach that I think helps a team is it reinforces the point that the captain wants to make. Like, what I've really learned from my experience with Liquid is that a captain needs like a right hand. He essentially needs somebody to agree with him, like, no matter what, and to kind of see his vision so that everybody else buys into it, right? Because if you've got 1 or 2 people that don't buy into it, you can really start to tell nowadays in Dota. So essentially what you hire a coach for is like reinforcement, and to also help you focus on like areas of need / give you more specific game plans. Because the thing about Dota is that your captain also just has to play the game. So he's not always going to have a fixed view of it. And then at the same time, like, people like Bulba, I know they help out during things with like draft practice, which is really crucial. I remember how hard he worked during like EG's like TI5 run to kind of mimic what CDC were going to do and try to figure out like what the responses were. So they just take a lot of that pressure away from the player so that person can just like play Dota.
So it would just be like a
You have
captain
to-
plus the coach doing that draft stuff
Yeah.
instead of 2 players.
Exactly, and it makes it really easy for everybody to just like follow a game plan, right? Like, okay, this is what we know, and it helps even more if the players respect the coach. And like, for example, Secret has Puppy, right? And Puppy probably said like, "Look, Theban is my voice. You know, he's worked with us in the past. I want you guys to like listen to him." And the kind of personality that he is will enable Theban to really, really bring out a lot in that team.
Well,
And the same thing with Kuro and Bulba.
I mean, objective analysis is EG had a coach for TI and they won TI, and they didn't have a coach for the major and they didn't win. So, like,
And also
Sam's
the 2
record as a coach
finalist
is pretty
teams.
insane.
The 2 finalist teams both had very strong coaches, Bulba and
Yeah.
Theban.
exactly.
So
But
I mean, I can only imagine, but I really think that Theban helped out Weehaw and Misery. I felt like their performances were so much more standout because of, I think, some lacking performances prior to
Pi?
this tournament. No, I mean, I think Pi's always been good, but
I would agree.
I mean, no, like Pi did amazing this tournament. But I'm saying, like, Pi didn't stand out to me before this tournament as being one of the lesser members of Team Secret, where I think Misery and Weehaw were definitely lacking in that department. And then when it came to this tournament, like, they actually shined rather than being the more detrimental. So I don't know if Theban had an impact there, or if that was just like a morale victory or strategy or what was it, but I really felt like those 2 stepped their game up so much for this tournament.
Well, in terms of getting a coach, I feel like most teams often talk about lacking an in-game coach or an in-game leader. So how do teams even find a coach that, number 1, they respect, number 2, that's like up on the meta, or is people feel like they can trust them and their ideas and stuff? How do teams even find those players? Do we need more like players to retire and go for more stable jobs, or what? Like, so I feel like most teams don't have access to players like Bulba or Theban.
Well,
Hey,
to start, Digital Chaos has to not qualify.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's pretty much the number one thing. Like, it's really hard to listen to a player that's not like a tier 1 player. Like, I can't imagine what I did would work for any other team than Liquid, because me and Crow get along, and those players were like really willing to just listen. Because that's the biggest part, is that maybe the things you say are good, but your players won't listen because of who you are. And Bulba's already kind of proven himself as a coach, right? He was TI5 coach, and they took a risk on that, and it paid off. But it pretty much, I think it almost always has to be a player on a pretty good team, or just like has a pretty well respected Dota mind. Like, after hanging around Sam more and more, by the way, I start to realize like I feel like I'm a pretty decent player at Dota. Like, maybe not at like a tier 1 or tier 2 pro level, but I still think I've got an okay understanding of the game. Like, that guy just makes me feel like an idiot. Like, the way that you're supposed to play around like safe lane towers and item timings and beyond that, like just like general gameplay, is incredible.
That's really cool.
Yeah, there's
So-
like very few people that I think could make that
You think he could
kind
be
of
a
like
full-time
call.
coach and make a lot of money doing that?
in a heartbeat. I think Sam is one of the maybe with like Theban plus like a few other players that could do it.
So maybe they rebrand as digital coaches instead, and then
Damn.
get like 3 more players that are good at
Yeah,
coaching.
That was fast. You had that
It
one
wasn't.
prepared.
I've
You
been,
had that
I've
queued
been
up.
No, I
holding
had
that
that
for
one
3
prepped.
minutes, dude.
You holding that 3
I'm like,
okay.
when can I
Got-
when can I say this? I was like 4 seconds too late when I thought of it, and then somebody else was talking, so it would have been weird.
Okay.
Anyways,
That was very good. It was good timing.
I mean, it's kind of a cool idea, because I don't know how much percentages you guys got, and as much talk as there been about everybody's earnings lately, it almost feels like it's okay to talk about it, but I'm sure you don't want to. But I feel like at some stage, those guys are going to be able to command a higher and a higher and a higher percentage of TI winnings. Because at like the thought before TI5 at least was that coaches, they help, but they're not like, they don't change everything. But now that like the teams with coaches have won what? They skipped obviously Frankfurt, but they won TI in this one. Like it's seeming like it's justified value. Do you at what stage do you give them almost as much money as the actual players?
Well,
I can tell you right. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say in normal like sports, the coaches that control, like how much practices and like who gets cut and who gets added to the team, like all that kind of stuff, they get paid as much as the star players do.
Well,
But obviously it's not going to get to that level here. But yeah, go ahead, Blitz.
I know that for a fact. I guess I probably can't tell who, but I know some team offered Bulba essentially like the same cut as a player, like almost
Wow.
identical to be a coach.
Just for one event or full time?
Full time.
Okay.
And he passed because he wants to play.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I mean, he can always coach though. He can always go back to it. If he doesn't qualify for TI, I'm sure a team will pick him up for coaching.
They should.
Almost certainly.
Like ringing endorsement of Bulba. Like honestly, just being around him, I can't say enough things. Like as a person, he can be like the dumbest person I know. Everybody knows that. But I feel like everybody talks about, for example, when people talk about Dota, they talk about like a lot of aftermath stuff, you know, like why team fights went bad or item choices or some shit. And the more I start to realize like how irrelevant all of that is. Almost all of it comes from like map movement, understanding like the psychology of the enemy team. Like Bulba was able to figure out that Secret made a premium on trying to defend their enemy, their offlane tower. And he was like explaining why it mattered so much. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, how many people do you know that would even come close to knowing about stuff like that, and why it was like so integral to their strategy? Like even mentioning it, I could probably give you like a handful.
Blitz, I know you're saying all this stuff, but why does DC suck then?
I think they're just chokes. Like they just choke when time comes because they need more experience or whatever.
They just like not listen to him or what? Because you make it sound like the dude's a fucking.
He is though.
Strategy monster.
I mean, fucking think about it.
Why are they not qualifying? Like, how did they not beat Archon?
That's like the biggest mystery in the world to me.
Like,
I'm just saying, like
he's always been a top player, realistically.
Like, I've always liked Bulba, right? Ever since the day that we did the bootcamp at TI3, and I followed that team around and I talked to him a lot. Like that guy he's a good guy, and I've always thought he was good, and I've always cheered for his teams. But you know, I know firsthand what it's like to be a Liquid fan for those teams. You know, so you know, I'm waiting for it to happen, Blitz.
I mean, do you think it's possible that it's not possible for him to make the same kind of like strategic impact on a team when he's the one playing?
Yeah,
and I mean, also they could be that he's more of a Dota mind than a Dota player.
Yeah, I think it's different when you objectively look at your team because you're also playing, right? And it's a lot harder. I think.
Maybe he's Phil Jackson, you know, not that great of a player, but all-time great coach.
Yeah, I seriously think whenever Sam decides that he wants to do it, if he decides he ever wants to do it, like anybody would be lucky to get him.
Damn. Okay. Maybe you can be a coach too, Blitz.
No, not at that level. Honestly, it was like embarrassing difference in knowledge. It was like that bad. I understood. I'm good enough at Dota to understand the concept after he explained it to me, but I would never be able to make that independent discovery without having him explain it first.
How spread would you say his knowledge and ideas of how Dota should be played and stuff like that is compared to the other, we'll say, tier 1 pros, top 16 teams that go to an event?
It's pretty different because especially at this event, ideas were really different. Like for example, Liquid almost never relied on junglers, whereas Secret realized like it was almost impossible to abuse the jungle, right? Like that they could just that they could get away with pretty much whatever they wanted. And then you had teams like eHome or I think OG at some point, they were running these like dual core strats, which I realized the point of it was that one of your cores would guarantee a farm, or it was very hard to gank the offlaner or the safe laner. Like, did you notice in OG's group games, it was like they would pick anti-mage, and then they would give Moon something like Lone Druid. Both those heroes take minimum 2 to 3 heroes to kill, right? So then it's either you go for Miracle, and then if he doesn't die, then he's just created a shit ton of space for his offlaner. And then you have a team like MVP Phoenix who decided that they were not going to jungle at all.
They were just hyper aggressive and efficient with their
game, right? It was newbie TI4-esque. What they would do that was so different than other teams is when other teams would win a team fight, like let's say bottom tower, they like took a fight, they would win the fight, and instead of farming out the jungle like every other team does, they would immediately meet you in top lane and then just fight you again. And no team was prepared for that kind of speed. eventually they got figured out, like as the rounds later went on, and I talked to QO because we're pretty close, and he said they kind of choked and they stopped, like they started losing faith in what they did because they were starting to get outplayed.
Yeah, the last couple of games, that just seemed like they got outplayed really hard in lane, and that was about it.
Yeah, they were starting to get there was a skill gap at some point between like them and EG, them and Liquid, but they definitely performed above means because they had a really good idea and they knew how to execute. What's crazy is he told me, now that the tournament's over, anything goes, I guess, but he told me like they didn't even know what they were doing until like they started scrimming at the main event, like right before group stages, and they were like, "Oh shit, this works."
You're talking about Phoenix.
Yeah, they just sort of like they cobbled something together, and they're like, "Oh shit, this is so good. Nobody can beat this."
So when if any of the casters were like, "Oh, these guys clearly like practiced like and prepared like all this time to get to here,"
No,
and then it's
Q
just,
was
like,
laughing when he was telling me. He's like, "What the fuck?"
I mean, that's pretty funny, honestly.
And you're talking about the group up thing after you lose the team fight?
Yeah,
That was what they figured out?
They would almost never play in their own jungle. They would just like run at you nonstop. Almost every other team, for example, they went high ground in one game against Secret at 12 minutes without going for Roshan because they thought it would slow down their timing too much. Like, what other team does that? Almost every other
always
team,
rush first.
You would always Rosh.
Another difference I noticed was like the offlaner play. Like I remember talking to a number of different players about the offlane, and I remember hearing like two very distinct, contradicting pieces of advice, which was one, you should never go Iron Talon first, and you should pretty much always try and stay in lane in order to keep the supports up at the safe lane and away from ganking your mid.
Yeah.
And then I heard other offlaners go like, Iron Talon all the way. Like, I pick Tidehunter, and I just pick up Iron Talon Tangos right away, and I have a fantastic game. So, I've never noticed that before in a tournament where teams had such different ideas on the meta, and I think that says a lot about
What
the
an
patch.
item, right? What
an item.
Iron Talon.
Iron Talon.
I feel better about it over time as players get better at knowing where an offlaner is going to be. Like your support runs to the camp next to the jungle, stuff like that. I feel better about it over time. I know it's still very good, but I'm not quite as of the belief that it's ultra OP anymore. How do you guys feel about it? Do you still think
think it's a silly concept. It takes, I think, some skill away from the offlane position.
I would agree with that. Like, even having the camp there alone already did a lot. Is that
I think
what you mean?
Yeah, I think the combination of the two just takes away a lot of what the offlane was supposed to be. But I think that's easily rectified. I think if you just like scale down Iron Talon slightly, the active part, I think then it's okay.
Yo, people like jungling, dude.
They really
People
do.
like their PvE. So you're never gonna stop
four
the guy.
positions, like 4-position Beastmaster and 4-position Night Stalker that can pick up Iron Talon and just jungle full time and have like a really good farm. I think that's pretty ridiculous.
I think the item is kind of boring, but yeah, everybody covered it.
What about the biggest disappointment was probably all the Chinese teams performing really poorly. Did you guys hear anything insider about people? I know a lot of people rumored about Chinese New Year, stuff like that. Did they just not figure out the patch as well as other teams?
I was told repeatedly that it was a motivation thing. Like
streaming contracts and stuff?
Yeah, players just didn't care enough about the tournament itself, and
how can they
everyone
not
just
care
kinda
about a
seemed
$3 million
apathetic.
tournament? I don't understand how that is even possible.
Everybody just like seemed super apathetic about the whole ordeal. It was really weird.
Fuck. Okay, that's very disappointing to hear.
Yeah, it felt like everybody was a lot of the Chinese teams just knew that there were going to be roster changes. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience, it's really hard to play your best Dota when you know for a fact like this is not the lineup that you want to play with. And
you're
just
like
me. No, not even. But you know what I mean. Kevin can tell you too.
Remember last year that all the Chinese teams swapped out immediately after Chinese New Year's, but obviously
Remember
they couldn't
Big
do it
God?
this time around.
R.I.P. Big
Big
God.
God.
I forgot about that team.
Yeah, the headphone champions.
What do you even mean by that? Headphone champions? Does that sound
Headphone champions.
Oh. I still don't know
When
what
they
you're
got
talking about.
they got accused of headphone hacking. Remember? They
Like
had
they
those
took them
pictures of
off
fucking
halfway?
Xiao 8 with like the headphone like
yeah.
halfway off. I wasn't being serious. I don't actually think they did that. Let's
That's right, I
relax,
forgot about
okay,
that.
everyone.
God, that feels like so long ago. Even like Frankfurt feels like
That was a
ages
year ago, dude. Frankfurt was not that long ago, and DAC was only a year ago. Feels like forever, right?
Yeah, really does.
That was like Sumail's like first like big breakout tournament.
It was. All right, only other teams I want to talk about in terms of performance, I felt like Alliance and OG went out a little bit earlier than people expected, and VP as well went out quite early. I don't know how you guys thought VP was going to do in the tournament, but I thought they were going to be at least top 8, right? And they got knocked out in the second round of the loser bracket in a best of 1 to OG. So, any thoughts about any of those teams for you guys? Like why they did
I think
bad?
I think that was just unfortunate. I think that if you look at the brackets, like I don't want to take anything from any teams, but I also want to be able to support some of the teams that went out early. I think the brackets just fell like a little bit unfortunate, where you would see teams like OG versus VP match up, which I would put both of them as like quite potentially easily top 8 teams. But
Well, is Fnatic legit or not? That's like the question, right? Did they fluke a win against OG, or are they legit like gonna be top 8 TI or something?
I mean, they beat Alliance 2-1, so
yeah, I think they're legit. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if some of the teams would have made it up to top 8 if they had faced up against like some of the Chinese teams that, if the Chinese teams were actually looking better, if they would have gone that far, or if they'd faced up against like say VP was versus Fnatic. I don't know who would win that, but I think Fnatic and VP, both of those guys looked really solid. But everything, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell as well. When they're matched up early on in the first couple of rounds, and like some teams just looked like really bad, and they would kind of like walked over them. But you could say that about every team.
Did you spend much time with EGM this event, Will?
Yeah, we get to chill and stuff. We had a theme session one of the days. Like we
The
always
Alliance,
do.
like, did you know how like when Alliance first got EGM, or when they first got S4 back and they were not with EGM yet, they had like a really long string of like bad results, right?
Yeah.
Did they ever almost break up? Because I feel like they're really strong right now. They're never gonna like separate at this point. But did they ever like doubt at that point?
I don't think so. I
No?
think they thought like
They always
were just, knew. Yeah, and I guess they already registered their lineup, right, for this next major.
Right.
I talked to
just,
Jerry
like,
and
mentally.
I think they feel pretty good. Like I know probably the loss to complexity was the hardest for them to stomach, but
Complexity
I think
is scary,
dude. Yeah, I think they felt okay about the event as a whole. Like they lost 2-1 to Liquid, who eventually went to grand finals, and they beat some good teams along the way. They knocked out eHome.
Do you think Swindle? Do you think Swindle could be a really good coach?
I don't know, but as a captain, I think he's super underrated. I don't think people talk about him enough as a captain, because he does. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I think being a very strong leader can have some downsides to being a captain in Dota, right? Because as you said, Blitz, like it's essential for the coach to go with the captain's vision.
Yeah, he's like a really strong personality. It takes a lot of pressure away from the rest of this team.
Just want to correct one thing I said. I said Fnatic 2-1 to Alliance, they 2-1 to OG. Sorry, Complexity 2-1 to Alliance. So the fact that they beat Alliance, I thought that was pretty surprising, because I watched Complexity play a lot of games in things like Canada Cup, stuff like that. I mean, they lost a best of 3 to Elite Wolves, the Peruvian team, and then they came back through loser bracket in Canada Cup and beat them easily in the grand finals, like 3-0, something like that. So they looked pretty good going into the tournament, but it keeps coming back to this like Z Freak plus Swindle thing. Like they just get 3 other really good players, and they just do well in major tournaments. It's pretty impressive to see that continue to happen. And I agree with you, Will. Like a lot of people will criticize Swindle for dropping his Yule Scepter that one time, but he's getting consistent results, like with virtually any team that he plays with so far.
I think
That's
it's because
pretty
they
impressive.
went to the opening ceremony when no other team would. Shows
And I would
commitment,
say,
you know.
as a player, he also looks a lot better in the offlane than he did as the mid.
Yeah, he was getting. I think he gets a lot of flack for his personality, but I think people underrate the aspect of having somebody who's that self-confident and you play with somebody like that. I think you just like you can't help but also trust that guy. Like eventually you'll start to believe, like, yeah, maybe we can do it, guys. And like you can even tell between games and stuff like that, he's super confident. Immediately after they lost, they were all looking kind of down, and I ran into him right after they lost, and he said, "Bet on us to win TI6." And he's like, "While the odds are still good," he's like, "Place your bets now." I'm like, "Dude, you haven't even qualified. Like, there's no guarantee you even get into the event." But that's just the kind of guy he is. Like, he believes in himself, he believes in his team, and when you have somebody that like that leading you every step of the way, how can you not like, buy into it eventually?
I remember asking him in the interview, like when they were gonna play EG in TI5, remember? And he was just
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, we're gonna beat EG. I've never lost to PPD in a best of 3 or something." Like he said, he was just like so supremely confident about it, and I just remember thinking like what the fuck? Like this guy, they have no results. Like how the fuck can he be so confident? And they almost won. Do you remember that? Like that series?
Yeah.
That series
Yeah.
was super close. Like that was a series where Sumail was like he lost to Swindle mid that one time, remember? I mean, he got a lot of help, but you know what I mean, right? That was like a crazy series. And people kind of forget they were like one really close game away from beating EG, like the TI champ that time.
Well, hopefully they continue to do well because it's definitely a fun storyline. He also called NA plus C, so that was
That was fun.
and nobody in the entire world believed him when he said that, I think, and he was actually right.
But a Euro team's got finals though. I don't know. Euro
Yeah,
teams
that's
are top
true.
2.
You're right about that.
Yeah, but he didn't mean like NA and Southeast Asia would meet in the finals. I think because he tried to
He
revise
said they
his
would be the
statement
best
earlier.
regions.
Yeah, but he tried to revise that. He was like,
Yeah, I mean,
he's like,
Europe's the
I
best
more
region,
meant
let's
that
be
they were
real.
going to be like
Okay,
Southeast
sure.
Asia and North America were going to be valued much higher after this event. I think is what he kind of meant to say.
Okay. Well, I mean, he definitely was right about that. I mean, MVP and Fnatic seem to just be way stronger than they were before.
I think they also had a coach. It was their old player, right?
Who was it, Banwar? Are you talking about MVP?
Huh? No, Fnatic.
I
Fnatic
can't
had a
remember
coach?
who their coach was. I think it was somebody
Oh.
that I didn't recognize. if I
Was it
remember.
Winter?
No.
Was it
Fuck, why am I
HY?
blanking?
ADTR is their sub.
Was it
but-
Miracle? Miracle?
No, it's Extinct.
Oh,
Pretty
Extinct.
sure.
was
Oh,
coaching.
that's right.
Okay. He's a former captain as
Yeah.
well, by the way. Another
Yes.
pip towards the former good captain coach coaching a team that did well.
It just felt like he brought a lot of stability to that team. Because
so-
before, what happens with Fnatic is you just see them do like the most nonsensical shit ever, and they just like seems like they just like change their drafts based on win loss. But they actually like stuck to their guns and kept picking the same shit for once, and I was like, go Fnatic.
I wonder if it's like it. I mean, Bulba's gonna get a chance to qualify, and then even if he doesn't qualify, he'll probably coach a top tier 1 team, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool for him, at least.
No, I think he'd much rather qualify. I'm thinking
Right,
he's tired
I'm
of.
saying he'd much rather qualify, obviously, but you know, at least he has a fallback. You know, he'll definitely go to TI, either way. And if it's like $25 million or something, then if he gets a percentage, then that's not bad.
Yeah, so a couple good players in good circumstances. All right, I think that's everything I have for notes. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about? Last second drama. Any starters here?
We covered a lot of stuff, guys.
Yeah, we really
That was
did.
Yeah, this was super long. We did good.
All right, well, I guess that's it. Thanks everybody for coming. Cap as well. Thanks for joining the show. We will
Anytime.
We'll consider your application. But
Thanks, Kevin.
I'm gonna rule this drama like. Nah, I probably shouldn't go there. We didn't talk about the latest drama about
Oh
the
shit,
Chinese
there's
threads.
LGD drama, that's right.
Yeah, that's the only
With
thing. we didn't
Sylar
talk
Oh,
and
whatever.
RuRu. I don't
I,
know
Yeah,
anything
I
about
barely
that.
We'll
even.
talk about
me
it
neither.
later.
I didn't even read that stuff. It was
Yeah,
like so thick with
The
words.
gift that keeps on giving.
I'm ready for a TLDR basically. That's what I want.
And the secret stuff never got resolved.
Oh yeah, that's true.
All this
My
Shanghai
biggest-
stuff could just swept it under the rug, like no one even remembers it.
My favorite thing is Xiaoida's back, but that's a
He is?
different story. Yeah, Xiaoida's on LGD.
He's gonna
Again.
come back for every TI. Come on.
Yeah,
Bridge.
maybe the Chinese teams only care about TI, even though major money is good and there's a Steam and stuff. I mean,
Xiaoi's gonna be top 3. Let's be real.
I mean-
TI is gonna be top 3.
second place was 400k. Like you could get like 8th place at TI and get like 800k. So yeah,
Well, we don't know how big the TI pot is gonna be this time, right?
Yeah, who knows? Could be.
Theoretically, it could be less
All right,
than last year.
it could be, but probably not. Hats.
Probably not. Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone for watching. This was our quarterly multicast podcast. No longer going to be weekly, but I think you guys got your hopes over that one a long time ago. Thanks for tuning in. This was Purge, Hotbid, Blitz, and Cap. I'll put everybody's Twitter down below. Share with your friends if you want, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.